Return of the Mount Hua Sect. Chapter 229.
Who keeps a dragon in their pond?
Ya, brat! Baekchun shouted with an angry face.
What?
But Chungmyung didn't seem to care. Baekchun, who was enraged at this, started stuttering. No, brat. For now, get yourself covered up.
What?
Get dressed. Your clothes.
Huh?
Chungmyung lowered his head and looked at his body.
I still have innerwear. What's the problem?
Baekchun scratched his head. Even though he still had his innerwear, Chungmyung was showing off the rest of his entire body. He just had one piece of cloth covering his most important part. Of course, his muscles were good enough to make someone jealous, but he had to at least wear pants. Regardless of how he felt, it was embarrassing for the rest of the people who saw him. Your Sago is with us. Baekchun was worried that Yu Yiseol's eyes would become tainted with this sight, but she seemed calm. She looked around calmly without a word and picked up a piece of cloth she found. Then she went to Chungmyung.
Put this on.
Thank you. Thank you for the tears in her eyes from the sight you have shown us. Chungmyung, however, just calmly took the clothes from Yu Yiseol, shrugging his shoulders.
Now I can beat that snake bastard. Let's go get the grass.
As soon as Yoonjung heard that, he sighed. Chungmyung, the snake isn't the problem right now.
Huh? Why?
It was then.
What is this? What crazy bastard did this? Huh?
With loud shouts, the soldiers of the Beast Palace rushed to the ruined place. Their faces were red with anger. They are the descendants of the Plum Blossom Sword Saint, so we treated them like guests with all our hearts. Seems like they want to die. All the soldiers were enraged at the sight and kept yelling. Once they started shouting, more and more people joined in.
Huh?
Chungmyung smiled awkwardly as he looked around at the shattered buildings. The entire place looked as if a war had occurred there.
It wasn't intentional.
Would those words really solve such a situation? Baekchun sighed and tried to speak. This was something that Chungmyung did, but he was the one who was in charge of this party. He had to step up and apologize first. I apologize. But then Chungmyung grabbed him by the shoulder and pulled him back. Sasuk, I'll handle this.
Huh?
It was obviously just a slight pull, but Baekchun's body flew back as if he had been ejected from a cannon. Thud. Bounce, bounce. Baekchun bounced like a throwing stone on water and trembled. Chungmyung looked at his hand with a trembling face, and he scratched the back of his head as he smiled awkwardly.
Sorry, I'm not used to it yet.
Baekchun, who got up from the floor, looked at Chungmyung with red eyes. Come here. I'm going to kill you. Let's see if it's you or me who'll die today.
Eh? Only Sasuk will die. Just stay put. I'll handle this.
This fucking...
Sasuk, calm down.
Isn't he always like that? Calm down. Jogul and Yoonjung rushed to grab Baekchun, who was rearing for a fight. Chungmyung didn't care and stepped forward to face the soldiers. Their numbers had now grown enough to form a considerable crowd, and they all glared at Chungmyung with cold eyes. Are you the one who did this?
Huh? What one?
The one who destroyed the entire place.
Eh? You must be joking now. How can we do this?
What? Are you going to deny that you destroyed the building? Hearing that, Chungmyung laughed.
Has anyone here seen this?
It was a typical lie, but it didn't work. I saw it. One soldier came forward. I saw it. I saw it with my own eyes. A black circle rose to the sky like a tornado, and the wind that came from it was pulling in everything. So don't even think of making such excuses.
Oh?
Chungmyung looked at the man with surprised eyes.
A tornado?
Yes. The man's face was turning stiff, but he continued. Explain it. If you don't explain it properly, even if you are the descendants of the Plum Blossom Sword Saint, you will not be able to escape the punishment. That is, until the Plum Blossom Sword Saint comes here directly.
Come here directly? I am the Plum Blossom Sword Saint.
Chongmyung sighed and continued. So, if we fail to explain it, will you beat us up?
If we have to.
But isn't it strange?
The
soldier tilted his head.
What is strange?
You said that there was a tornado in the air near that part of the building.
Right.
Did I make it?
Can a human do that? Right. Can a human do that?
Chongmyung shook his head and continued. When a tornado rises and the building is shattered, isn't it common sense to normally worry about the people who are inside the building? But here you are, trying to put that blame on me.
That.
The soldier went silent. No, if they thought about it for a bit, it actually made sense. Could a human really create such a wind?
No.
And there is another strange thing.
What?
Let's say that I did create it. Chongmyung pretended to look around. Then are you saying that you are going to beat the person who created such a tornado with your bare hands? Are you even sane? The soldier kept silent.
He isn't wrong.
If this situation was really orchestrated by the young disciple of Mount Hua, then he had to be someone who transcended common sense. It wouldn't be easy to catch and imprison such a person. At least.
What is this?
A roaring voice filled the place suddenly.
My lord! Greetings to the lord!
The soldiers and guards who saw him fell flat on the ground. The disciples of Mount Hua also bowed as they saw the man. The soldiers and guards looked at the Lord.
My lord, these people!
Silence! The Beast Palace Lord raised his hand and stopped the guard from saying anything. And then, with shocked eyes, he moved towards Chongmyung. Thud, thud, thud. The ground vibrated with each step he took, and every time his foot touched the ground, it felt like the beasts around them would bounce up. Thud. Soon, the Beast Palace Lord approached Chongmyung and glared at him. Boy.
Yes?
The man's face was red. Unlike before, his voice was more of a groan as he looked at Chongmyung. Did you achieve it?
To an extent. I guess I can say that my internal ki has increased a little.
Extent?
Yes, about this much.
The Beast Palace Lord's face contorted. The man was shaking as if he couldn't stand what he had just heard. Then he patted Chongmyung on the shoulder. This extent? Right. Good. This much can happen. Pop, 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 pop. Each time the hand slammed into Chongmyung's shoulder, a cracking sound could be heard.
Am I going to die here? Is he actually angry at me?
Each time his hand touched Chongmyung's body, pain surged through him. By the time the Palace Lord's laughter was over, Chongmyung had been half nailed to the floor. The man smiled as if he found that interesting as well and pulled Chongmyung up. Right. This kind of achievement calls for drinking. The faces of the soldiers went pale.
Lord, they are sinners who destroyed the palace. They need to be punished.
What? The Palace Lord yelled. You want to punish our guest for blowing up a little piece of the palace? Since when did the people of my Beast Palace become such cheap-minded people? Pathetic beings. The men quickly bowed their heads at his words. At that time, Chongmyung put his tongue out to tease the soldiers. This made the soldiers hate him even more.
I really want to hit that bastard.
Well, he came in as a guest.
If only I can pull out some teeth from that mouth of his, I will die in peace. How can he have such a messed up personality despite being a descendant of the Plum Blossom Sword Saint?
Of course, if they had met the past version of Chongmyung, they would realize that the two were exactly the same. However, the history and character of the Sword Saint were beautified, so they didn't know. If our guest achieved growth in the palace by blowing it up, we cannot not celebrate it. What? This little bastard.
Lord, Don't be too angry. Our Lord has such a big heart.
Right.
And we are in the wrong.
Wrong. Where were you wrong? Such things might happen to a warrior when they practice. I blew up training halls when I was young too.
Right? I see.
The faces of the soldiers were a mess. How can the Lord get along so well with these strangers he met only a few days ago, and to prefer them over the soldiers and guards he had been with for a decade?
He is playing the child card.
He is not young to be even called a brat.
Just looking at his face makes me want to kill him.
The soldiers all sighed at the sight of the disciples of Mount Hua. Meanwhile, the disciples didn't look them in the eyes. The two groups sighed. Let's have a party.
No, not now.
Huh? The palace lord tilted his head. Not now.
First, we need to take down that snake bastard. And then, let's have it as a snack at night.
Are you talking about the ink-skilled blood python?
Yes.
Yes, but be careful. It is a spirit creature after all.
Right, a snake.
Right. A man should have this much pride.
Of course.
Sighs came from all sides as they listened to the two people. What did you do?
What?
I am asking, what did you do?
That?
Chongmyung, who was heading into the divine pond, smiled at Baekchun's words.
I increased my ki a little bit. I have grown a little. A little.
Baekchun lifted his head up and looked at the sky, which was obscured by the trees. Oh my God. Please, please do something. What kind of little internal ki growth can pull that off? How could he take down a building? And beasts too? Should he be concerned because of Chongmyung's rapid growth? Or was he supposed to be surprised that he was able to gain such strength to fight the snake? Please, please, show me a way.
Well, it didn't increase as much as I thought it would, but it is good that I didn't die from doing it.
It is possible to die while increasing internal ki.
It was a bit risky this time.
I don't know anymore. I don't know a fucking thing anymore. Baekchun sighed and mumbled something. However, Chongmyung didn't pay any attention to it and continued to walk straight.
This was dangerous.
The poison in the ki had far exceeded his assumptions. One small mistake. If his ki control had been a little more docile, his body would have exploded and he would have died. But Chongmyung succeeded in purifying the tears of beauty. And had absorbed it.
I was lucky to even absorb it.
The initial amount of ki was vast. But what he could absorb into the body wasn't even a fraction of the original. Fortunately, since the vast amount of ki was already circling around his body, with just the little internal ki he had extracted, he was able to create much more pure internal ki. He was lacking compared to what he had in the prime time of his past life, but with this, he wouldn't have to suffer for a while. So, first things first. He looked to the left and right, and then spotted the lake. I will let you know the price of touching other people's things. Chongmyung, at least tell the truth. You are touching its things. It did nothing to us. The disciples of Mount Hua sighed. Here I come. Chongmyung drew his sword and leaped into the pond without delay. Yeah, that sword was cut down.
It's fine.
Chongmyung descended from the air and waved his hand.
Come out, you brat!
It was then. There was a very small ripple in the calm lake, and soon the snake emerged, revealing its gigantic size. Its beady black eyes were dotted in red, and its pitch-black scales seemed even more menacing as it looked at Chungmyung. "You're dying today." Chungmyung spat on the ground and grabbed his sword as he ran for the snake. The snake also rushed at Chungmyung, hissing aggressively as if it was screaming at him.